Welcome back to BSpice. In this session, we'll continue with IEC 62443 Part 2.1, wherein we'll focus on, or in fact, we continue this SPE6, User Access Control. Okay, so this is a User 1 Identification and Authentication Part 2. Okay, so prior to this, yesterday, we have uploaded one video on this User 1 Identification, wherein we had covered actually 5 items. 5 items just as a recap. One, user 1.1, user identity assignment, and user 1.2, user identity removal, and 1.3, what? This is about user identity persistence, and 1.4, access rights assignment, and 1.5, least privilege. Okay. So in this session, we'll continue with the another 5. So in fact, totally 19 items are there in this, user, right? So we'll start with this session with 1.6, which talks about software service authentication. So what is the requirement for this? Basically, friends, the asset owner shall have a policy and procedure related to identifying and authenticating the software services prior to the execution. So that is why it is important actually. Okay, this is listed as 1.6, user 1.6. Okay, so what is the rationale? Yes. See, two commonly used software identification and authentication techniques are followed. Okay. Of course, there are many actually, but two commonly used. So, yes, what is that? Basically, digital signature and allow listing. Okay. So, prior to this, just wanted to update you. Software services, typically run under an account, right? Assigned to them, right? So this account may be shared by two or more software services, or it can be an account created specifically for the software service. Therefore, these services should not be allowed to start without first being identified and authenticated for that account by the infrastructure. So meaning service control management application. Okay. So coming back to this, two commonly used software, right? One is digital signature, other is allow listing. So this digital signature and allow listing provide a supplemental or alternate way to verify the identity and authenticity of software to authorize its execution. Yes, so that is the point here. So software service authentication is needed. Now we go into the another item 1.7, software services interactive login rights. So asset owner shall have a policy and procedure related to denying software services, interactive login capabilities. Okay, why? What is the rationale? Yes, the software services that run under an account that has an interactive login privileges provide the potential for attackers to use those accounts to log into the system, thus expanding the attack surface. You got it, friends? I repeat again, the software services that under an account that has interactive login privileges provide the potential for attackers to use those accounts. Okay. So generally, okay, just to add on, generally accounts have properties that control how they are used. Typically, a property is defined that allows or disallows the account to be used for interactive logins. For accounts used to start service control program, that property should be set to disallow when this is supported by the software service. So we should have a login rights, friends. Okay. So that is the point. Okay. Then 1.8, it's about the human user authentication. Okay. So asset owner shall have a policy and procedure related to identifying and authenticating all human users on an IACS interface that can be used by human users to access the IACS. Oh, there are many, but I just want to update you few actually, like, device interactive human user login interface and application interface such as web services, file transfer, OPC server, and also this remote desktop interface that provides the human users a login to access to the IACS. Is it? Yes. So these are the things actually. So the requirement is like this. We need to have the what do you call a policy and procedure, okay, to identify and authenticating all human users. Okay. So you may ask, what is the rationale? Yes, so the same thing I'm going to repeat. Human users who access the IACS but who are not identified and authenticated pose a risk to the IACS, isn't it? So these users are often granted access using, sorry, this is a typo error, using a guest account for desktop access and anonymous account for web server access. Okay, I repeat again. These users are often granted access using guest account for desktop access and anonymous account for web server access. Okay, so both of these account type have restricted privileges, but they still allow the user to launch attack that attempt to discover or exploit internal vulnerabilities of the system. Okay. So the point is we should have a policy and procedure related to identifying and authenticating all human users on all IACS interface. Okay. Interface in the sense I already explained. That is device interactive, human user login, application interface such as web service, file transfer, OPC, and remote desktop interface. Okay. So 1.8 is done. Okay. Now we go into 1.9 multi-factor authentication. So the asset owner shall have a policy and procedure related to using MFA. Okay, so MFA means multi-factor authentication by devices that support interactive human user login for remote access or when they are located in public access areas. So what is the rationale? Yes, the MFA is used to provide most secure method of authentication identification, right? So it is generally composed of a combination of something a user knows. For example, password or personal identification number, or maybe something the user has, meaning a smart card or security token, or something a person is, for example, fingerprint or retinal scan, all these. So the point is using MFA for workstation that can be accessed by non-IACS users makes it more difficult for this user to defeat a single factor authentication mechanism. Okay. So all devices that support interactive user login, such as workstation, and that are granted access to the IACS should be evaluated to determine if they face the risk of access by unauthorized personnel. So this is very, very important. Hope you know this. Is just a recap. Okay. This is about multi-factor authentication. Now, the last item for this session, we'll talk about mutual authentication. So what is this mutual? Yes. So the asset owner shall have a policy and procedure related to using mutual authentication for access to all server application hosted on ISTS devices, including the technology-based server. So the rationale is like this. Mutual authentication is used to verify the login process that the user is known and authorized. So it is also used to verify, to the user that the login process is known and authorized, okay, and not spoofing, spoofing in the sense pretending to be a legitimate login process. So login processes that spoof a legitimate login process typically ask the user for their credentials and steal them. So the same spoofing technique can be used by attackers to mislead an operator to configure the wrong device, which poses a risk to the availability and integrity of the IACS. Okay. So the point is we should have a mutual authentication. Okay. So that's all I have for this session, friends. Okay. So so what we had covered here, 1.6 software service authentication and 1.7 talks about software services interactive login rights, and 1.8 human user authentication, 1.9 multi-factor, and the last is mutual authentication. So this so far in this user, okay, we have covered 10 items. There are another nine actually, like password protection, shared and disclosed compromised passwords, user login display information, user login failure displays, consecutive login failures. All these we will address in the next session. Thanks for watching and yeah, see you.